Hello. I'm talking today about this band, Ween, which I've talked about quite a few times. I've actually done independent, I did a review on chocolate and cheese, and then I bought this second hand, and I did a review. I just showed it, and I've talked about them in other videos because Ween is one of the bands who I've been on the lookout for their CDs since I started recollecting about 6 years ago. And I found this one for 50 cents in a secondhand charity shop. And I got this one online on a Facebook trading page for $10. Both very good prices if you know about the market for Ween CDs, and I guess vinyl as well. I don't know because I don't collect records, but Ween, more than most bands, their CDs are, secondhand CDs are really expensive. I think I guess that's not the main reason, but one of the reasons is they're out of print, as in they did the original run when it was released, the original run of however many thousands, and then subsequently it's never been re-released or repressed or anything like that. And so it's quite a limited quantity, except for chocolate and cheese. I think because, or two reasons. This one was their biggest selling album, I believe. This came out about 95-ish, 94, on Elektra. And I'm pretty sure it sold the most. It's certainly the ones you see around the most commonly. And so it had a major label release. It sold decently well in that kind of 90s alternative kind of wave, and therefore you see it around them all, like I did for 50 cents. And they've also just recently re-released a 30th anniversary edition. I guess was 2024 they did, and that's quite expensive. And I think I've seen that around. That's kind of like $80 or something. This was obviously, I think, their first album, and this came out in like 1989 or 1990 on Twin Tone Records, which is an independent, or certainly not a major label. And it's, as far as I know, it's never been re-released in any way. And then that's the same for, throughout the 90s, the Pod. Is it the Pod or just Pod? Pod and Pure Guava. Now, Pure Guava might have had a major label release as well. I'm not sure on that. And then the Mollusk and White Pepper in Quebec and whatever else other releases they had. Anytime you look for those, A, you can't find them if you're looking in stores, secondhand or new. And B, if you do happen to find them secondhand, they are more expensive than typical secondhand CDs. Now, I talked about this for the first time maybe it was a year and a half ago. I remember the day specifically because it was the video I made where I was staying in a hotel over in the city. And I'd gone out that day specifically shopping for CDs at the stores. And when I say the stores, I mean not secondhand stores, but actual music stores, like Real Groovy Records and Flying In and Marbeck's when it was open. And I was going with the intention of buying whatever copies I could find of the Ween albums. Specifically, I was looking for the Mollusk, Quebec, and White Pepper, because I've been listening to those a lot. And there wasn't a copy anywhere. And I was a little bit surprised by that. I thought I would have surely found something in some shop, but it was nothing. And so then I started researching. I saw these kind of comments people would make, and it turned out that, they're really hard to find, and then they go for like silly prices. As an example, I'll show you on Discogs on my phone. I search this up. Now, if you don't know Discogs is a, what would you call it, an online catalog of every kind of release of CDs, of music, physical music, records and CDs and cassette, and it kind of catalogs them, and you can put entries yourself because they don't have everything on there. So say if I find a particular New Zealand release cassette of Ween from 1991, I can upload that via the barcode and other bits and pieces. And so they have that. So here's Ween Quebec rock, alternative rock, indie rock from 2003. And then they have the different, well, this is the one I clicked on. I clicked on the top one, which is the master release CD and vinyl. So we go, it says from 59 New Zealand dollars to $970. Now obviously that's just some person who's put that silly price for the sake of it. But there, that's 179 euro for the double Quebec album. Not the double album, but you know, the two LPs that make up the album. $202 New Zealand, 120 American. That's again for the LP. Here's the CD. So that's 30 euros, near mint, that's good condition. But to get that shipped here, with shipping, 123 New Zealand dollars, which is about 60 to 70 American dollars. Another CD, 50 euros, $60 US CD, $80 US CD. You know, the records are just crazy prices, 150. Here one, you know, it's not even available in New Zealand, but is a CD for £30, which again, 70 New Zealand dollars. CD, $245 plus $21 shipping, comes out when we put it into New Zealand money, $450 New Zealand. You know, that's just mental. But the thing is, and that's from Japan, the thing is that some of these do sell. I don't think that's going to sell $250, but you know, you hear people are paying around $100, $200 for these CDs. 220, 250. This is just crazy. 500 euros. That's over $1,000 New Zealand. Very good plus. Very good is not even, that's what is it? Mint, near mint, excellent, very good. So very good is kind of like several levels below new condition. And especially with a record, because a record, you know, it's so, they can be so, you know, temperamental, fickle, the playability on them. It's not like a CD where even a relatively scratched CD typically plays perfectly. You're taking quite a risk there, paying that much money for a record. And also, this is coming from Norway, so you can't look at it beforehand if I'm buying it in New Zealand. Crazy prices. But I can't speak for records, but I will say for CDs, Ween have come to the rescue in some ways. I won't say it's a perfect solution, but it is a solution. And that is the release of the Brown Box. All 10 of their albums. So we got the one I just showed here, God, Ween Satan, Pod, Pure Guava, Chocolate Cheese, what is it, 12 Country Classics, Mollusk, White Pepper, Quebec, was it La Cucaracha? What's that on there? Is that Shinola, maybe? And they come in a little box set called the Brown Box. 10 CDs. Ships next month, the 10th of April, 2026. The first Korea spanning complete studio albums box set from Ween. So let's see. God Send the Pod, Pure Guava, Chocolate Cheese, 12 Golden Country Greats, the Mollusk, White Pepper, oh, okay, there's Shinola, and La Cucaracha, I was right. This collection includes many long out of print titles on CD, as well as some of the finest American songwriting for the past 40 years. Punk is dead, long live Ween. And they're also releasing, you can see here, the records, like White Pepper for just $25, American, that's, and this, whatever that is, oh, that's a live on CD, it's only $15. So That's pretty cool that they're doing that, I think, because they could. That is a good price. That's American price, but I did the calculation with shipping. It comes to 120 New Zealand dollars. So that's basically how many tens? That's $10 per CD, more or less, a little bit more, but with shipping, $10 a CD. That's pretty good, because they could have released a re-release deluxe edition or something like that for every CD and charged, like, you know, 50 American dollars per CD, and kind of put maybe a couple of live versions as extras, or like a bonus, like a demo version or something, and they could have made a bit more money, or quite a lot more money, because the market is there. Now, some people will say, because I did see this online, that they'll say, well, okay, I should say the cons of this. Well, I said it's not a perfect solution. Was the main con, as you can see, these are not coming in the jewel cases with artwork booklet. They are in these little, what do they call them? Digi sleeves, which I've talked about before, and I'm really not a fan of digi sleeves because they get damaged so easily. They are kind of like a shitty, you know, alternative to a jewel case. A jewel case, you know, as much as they break and crack and the teeth fall out and all the rest of it, at least they protected the CD to a certain extent, and they're typically uniform. Whereas these things come in different shapes and sizes, and I've heard also they scratch the CD, taking them in and out, slipping against the kind of rougher cardboard inside. So that's not ideal either. But they do come in this kind of box, which hopefully will protect them, the brown box. I don't know how sturdy that will be. So, you know, I guess that's a way, they've obviously done that to cut down costs, which is, you know, again, you can understand. A box set of 10 jewel cases would be a lot bigger to ship and to, you know, distribute than 10 digi-sleeves. So that's the main con. But then the talk online is that some people were a little disappointed and were saying, well, I'll buy this box as kind of like a stopgap or a place filler until I get the original CDs. Which I guess if you're a real collector, then I can understand that. But at the end of the day, the reason why I wanted these Ween albums is because I've talked about this before, but just to kind of give my history of Ween, is that I became familiar with Ween in the early to mid 90s with the song Push the Little Daisies that was played on music TV. And then Freedom of 76, I saw the video for that. Then I downloaded some of their music. I'm trying to think of the other songs that I knew. Tick. Just kind of bits and pieces all over the place. Because you know when you used to download stuff on Napster or whatever, you'd get kind of random songs here and there. And then I think I downloaded the whole of the Mollusk album. And I really liked that album. But they always kind of seemed to me, in my mind, to be a bit of a joke band. Kind of like some sort of novelty act. And in some ways I kind of do still feel that way, but I don't necessarily mean that in a pejorative, negative sense. I kind of didn't listen to them for a long time. And I'm trying to think what kind of got me back into them. About 5 years ago, for whatever reason, maybe it was just I was looking, you know, browsing on Spotify, I started listening to their later albums, which I really had not listened to in depth. Quebec and White Pepper. And I kind of fell in love with those albums again and realized how amazing they were. The songwriting, just the range of styles, which obviously is like an easy thing to identify with Ween. It's kind of what they're famous for. But it's just kind of like so much there, so much depth and breadth of material, and I don't know, songs that I never really thought about And then I kind of, like I said, rediscovered, and I was like, shit, this is like amazing stuff. And so that's kind of what made me think, okay, well, I really like, and this is kind of what I usually do. If I come across music that I really love, and this is kind of quite reserved, there's not a huge list of these kinds of bands, but I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm willing to spend new prices for this band. Think bands like my favorites, like Devin Townsend or Strappin' Young Lad or Enslaved or Opeth or Soundgarden or there's other bands as well that I would add to that. Boards of Canada, of course. Just as an example, those bands, if they release new stuff or something, I come across of their older material I don't have and it's new, and I've got to pay $30 New Zealand for it, then I'm willing to do that. Whereas if it's a band, like if I'm just picking something randomly here off the table, the shelf, such as Leonard Skinner. Well, Leonard Skinner is not a band I have any kind of deep feeling about. I like some of their songs. I particularly like the song Simple Man, but is that not even on here? Simple Man. It's not, the song that I like is not even on there, but I do have another one of these. Am I looking right? Oh, this one here. I think I've shown this one before. The Leonard Skinner Story. And this one does have Simple Man, which is track, can I find it? 6. Anyway, my point is that I found this for 50 cents and I found this for $1. And I would not have paid more than $2 for either of these because it's Leonard Skinner. You know, I'm not even really that familiar with them. They're a little bit yeehaw for me sometimes. You know, who doesn't know Sweet Home Alabama? But in saying that, they've got some good songs. But I'm not willing to pay new CD prices for goddamn Leonard Skinner, am I? And that goes for most of the CDs I have in my collection. The vast majority I paid 50 cents to $1 for because they're bands, music that I enjoy and I listen to and appreciate, but it's not a band that I can afford to pay new prices for. But Ween progressed into that category for me because I was enjoying my renaissance, their renaissance with me, whatever you want to term it. But yeah, lo and behold, that wasn't an option because there's nothing available out there. And it kind of does seem, I use that word renaissance, that they do seem to be having a kind of renaissance in their career in the late, when did Gene leave? Gene Ween left the band. I think that was around the mid-2010s. I might be completely off on that, but let's just say it is. He left the band for a few years to kind of, I think, get sober was the main reason. And then they came back, and it kind of, there seemed to be a, like a new generations had discovered them, and like I said, like for example, like you can see their music is going for premium prices online. And like their tours would sell out very quickly, and it just seems like they had more appreciation nowadays than they had at their kind of commercial peak in the 90s maybe. And then Dean, unfortunately, has also taken a hiatus and still on a hiatus. So the band is actually not active at the moment because Dean Ween, I think a similar kind of thing to Gene is that he was kind of mentally burnt and maybe some kind of substance issues, or maybe, I don't know if that's true or not, but certainly he said, I think, mental health, anxiety, he just couldn't face touring. And so they had to cancel a whole big tour they had planned, and so that caused a lot of kind of angst and whatever you want to call it online. But yeah, I can't remember what was the point of this line of speaking, but I guess ultimately my point of today is saying, well, here is a phenomenon in the secondhand CD sphere world marketplace. It's quite unique because I think like if we choose another band, now of course I can't just say like for example Soundgarden or Nirvana because they were around the same time obviously in the kind of early mid 90s, but those guys sold tens of millions of albums, so it's much easier to find their stuff anywhere. And they've also had repressings, reissuings, 25th anniversaries. But what's a band of similar size of Ween? That's kind of hard for me to think. I don't know. Like, what about Steve Albini's band? What was his band? Shellac. We think that's Shellac. Now, the only difference with Shellac would be that they were always never on a major label. I think they were always indie. But if I put Shellac into here, I know what's the other? Big Black. Maybe, no, but I think Big Black would be too early. That was more 80s, wasn't it? Let's just put Shellac because I'm more familiar with Shellac anyway. What's going on here? No, okay, that's not going to work. Discogs has also got an app, which is a lot easier to use than using the mobile site, because this is a bit unwieldy and fiddly, the online site, and it kind of takes a long time to do things. There we go, Shellac. Indie rock band, which is a guy formed in 92. There we go. Okay, I know Ween formed about 84, but that was when they were still at school. So I think their actual career as a band started around 88, 89, and then their first release was 90. So, you know, it's not a big difference. 1,000 Hertz. That's the album I'm most familiar with. From somewhere else. Action Park. There we go. Action Park kind of touch and go in 94. That would be a good one. Because that's similar kind of, you know, early mid-90s. Hardcore indie rock, math rock, noise rock. 192 listings. See, these are, what are these? These are all unavailable. That means you can't get it shipped here if you're wondering why it's unavailable. But yeah, prices are a lot more. Yeah, there's a CD there for £9.50, which is you get it shipped here for $21. Well, actually, no, sorry, that's without shipping. But buy it for $21. The LP is a little bit more, $40. But you can see the prices are nowhere near. Oh, here we go. Here's an expensive one, €135. 150. But if we averaged it out, the average is way lower than the Ween ones I was showing. And so it seems to be quite a relatively unique thing, because I think, like I said, Ween has had this resurgence. And I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe it's because their music, they're kind of ahead of their time. Maybe it was because people were like me, and they kind of considered them to be a joke band. Well, not a joke band, but you know what I mean, kind of a novelty act and everything kind of tongue in cheek. And I think that is true to an extent, but there's so much more there, and people came to discover and appreciate that maybe, I don't know. So yeah, I will be ordering it. I will be spending 120 New Zealand dollars on the Ween box set. And I usually wouldn't spend that much, obviously, but it is for 10 albums, and it's for 10 albums that I really want. I already have 2 of the albums. I'm kind of thinking, should I sell those? I could probably get a relatively decent price. The guy who sold this didn't know what he had. He sold it on the New Zealand CD Facebook trading page. It would have been a year ago now. Can't actually remember exactly. But it was for sale for $10. Oh, you can see there that he could have sold that on Discogs for, you know, a lot more than that. So I could sell it, but I don't know. I'll hang on to it for now and then decide once I've had time to kind of evaluate. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.